right now is a good time to be a collector. Because of the pandemic, a lot of people are selling things and other people are buying things. With us now, C. Scott Lovejoy. He's the owner of Back to the Past Collectibles. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Tell us more about your store.
Well, we just recently moved into the Wixom area. We used to be in Livonia, and we moved up here in November, and we've been really enjoying this community. And what we do is we specialize in helping families evaluate and then bring to market their collections. And so we work with people that might be downsizing or clearing out, just getting some room back, moving the storage unit. And as you say, the pandemic has created a lot of interesting opportunities with this, where there are a lot of people clearing things out. But interestingly, I think because they're not going to the ball game or the bar or whatever, there's some expendable income there that they're looking for things to spend it on. And so some collectible values this year have really skyrocketed. We specialize in the pop culture realm, so we handle things like comic books, vinyl records, old toys, movie posters, coins. It's a pretty wide net. We don't really handle general antiques, but a lot of interesting things come through here.
So when you guys were in Livonia, were you kind of more like almost like that big warehouse setting where you went up and down the aisles and looked? When
we were in Livonia, we had about 4,000 square feet, and it was set up to be a little bit more retail. But yes, we definitely have always had we get big collections in, and as we're sorting through them, we just kind of spread everything out as we're working through them. So there definitely was opportunity to kind of come and look at these boxes being opened and see what kind of stuff was being revealed. I find that to be like one of the really fun things as far as what we do. We might open a box that hasn't been opened in 50 years. So it's that fun moment of saying, what's in here? What's going to pop out? And it could be completely worthless, or it might be a treasure. We don't know.
I think I've been in your store before because, it's pretty well known. My husband's a crazy comic book collector, so I, know a little bit about your world. I pretend like I'm listening. Let's just say that. Yes, baby, that's great.
We appreciate your support.
You know what he likes to do is I'll walk into the bathroom and he'll take down whatever picture I have up and just randomly hang comic book pictures like that he has. I'm like, that does not go there. It's like he waits to see how long it takes me. I'm like, you have one room only.
What do you mean? It goes with everything. It goes with every decor. I don't know what you mean.
It's very colorful.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But with that too, how do people know? How do they know if what they have is worth something or it's just junk?
That's the million-dollar question, and that we work with people on the whole spectrum. We worked with people who are really, maybe a loved one's passed away and they have to deal with what's in the house or whatever, and they literally don't have the first idea on what's there. And so we're starting at that square one and helping them figure that out. It's an important part of our mission, I think, when we're helping people like that, to educate them as far as what's there. But then we work across the spectrum with people who are, like your husband, would be very, very into it, know exactly what it was. And that end of the market tends to be pretty familiar with what they have and what it's worth. And so it's a completely different conversation than when we're trying to work through things like that. There's obviously tools online. A lot of people use eBay as a price check, which has its pluses and minuses. But there's other sites as well in terms of helping to figure out what things are worth. But the interesting thing about when you get into entertainment-based things like comic books or movie items or toys or things like that, there is also a lot of sentimentality. And people tend to want to assign a lot of value to something because it's very important to them. And that doesn't necessarily always translate.
C. Scott Lovejoy with us here on the MegaCast. He's the owner for Back to the Past Collectibles. How has the internet and sites like eBay changed your world and the world that you operate in?
It helps in terms of the fact that there is this sort of giant garage sale always going on that is eBay. And when we, we can go out there and we use it and we sell things there. And so it's great you can put something on eBay and I'm not even sure what their
You froze up.
Is now, but it's hundreds of millions of eyeballs. That's great. Am I here? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You froze up for just a second, but
Okay.
you're back now.
All right. So I'm not sure how much of that you got, but I was going to say that the downside sometimes for us is that because eBay is so accessible, there is a sentiment that people can think, well, I could just do this myself. And we find that that tends to be true if you have an item that is what we would consider a gem, something that's really strong, really popular, it's worth a lot of money. It is very easy to snap a few photos of it, throw it on eBay, and get that and go, wow, that was easy. But most collections don't tend to be that. Most collections tend to be, there might be some stuff like that, but then there's a lot of mid-grade stuff and a lot of low-end stuff. And so when you open up a storage unit, I mean, it's a dream come true if every item in there is $1,000 item, but that's not generally what happens. And so when it comes to working through the whole collection, what we find is that passion for selling something on eBay is great as long as you're getting that huge return on one item. But when it starts getting into the work, there's a lot of work. You're essentially running your own store. You're handling customer service. You're shipping every day. You're answering questions. It gets to Texas and they don't like how you described it and they want to send it back. And you are really in the process of running a store. And we find most people's interest in eBay kind of fades after a while of doing that kind of work because they realize how much work it really is.
And so with that, because we are in the middle of the pandemic, it's changed. This has been a roller coaster, an up and a down and an up and a down. And hopefully we're coming on the back side of this. But what changes have been made in your industry because of this?
What's interesting is we run live auctions, which aren't eBay. It's our own platform. And we would have people in the room with the bidder cards and the whole 9 yards. And since the pandemic hit, we haven't had any in-room events like that. And whereas, what we refer to as the before times, we would have a lot of people who might be of the, kind of the crusty old guy who's like, I'm not getting online. I want to be in person. That's all there is. I'm not, especially in coins, when we did coin auctions, there'd be a lot of people who would say, I'm not getting online. I'm not doing that. But essentially what this year has done, you see it with Zoom, all the people who now know how to use Zoom who never would have before. But it's the same thing with these types of events. People who would have never gotten online are now in that online community. They know how to use the tools. And so it's whereas a year ago in March when this was rolling in, we had our moment of like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Is the economy going to fall? Are all these values going to fall? How's this going to affect what we do? And weirdly, it's been one of the strongest years for collectible values we've ever seen. There's things just lighting up that shock us for how much some things are selling for right now. But I believe that it's because it forced everybody, if you want to be in this world, you got to be online. And it kind of put everybody in the same pool. So it's interesting how it kind of supercharged the collectibles market.
It really is interesting. And I'm wondering, though, how do you do an online auction when everyone has a different computer, everyone has a different internet, and it freezes, just like it did a moment ago with you. And we see it consistently. But when you're in the middle of an auction, that could be a little devastating.
Yes, especially when it's online only. If you have some mishap like that and it shuts it down, that immediately impacts your revenue stream. So that's not a good thing. But I honestly, there's been a couple of gaps and glitches here and there, but we've been very fortunate. We haven't had any massive outages or anything that's really affected us this year. So that's been good.
That is good. See Scott Lovejoy with us here on the MegaCast. He's the owner of Back to the Past Collectibles. They have recently relocated to Wixom. Is your store reopened to the public right now?
It is, but as what we mostly do is get collections in, we sort and process and get them listed online. The great majority of what we do really is through online access, through eBay and through our live auction platform. But We are open at this location on Wednesdays and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So if you ever want to come by and take a look and just kind of see the sorts of things we carry, we do have a small showroom here open to the public. But we have a 12,000 square foot building now. And we love this place, by the way. We love being in Wixom. It's just a great location. We're real happy to be here. And most of our facility here is dedicated to processing and sorting and listing and shipping things out. So kind of when you come in, it's almost like, it's a bit like when you stand outside the window in the fudge shop at Mackinac or Frankenmuth, and you look through the window and you watch them making the fudge. That's kind of when you come in here, you can kind of watch the whole process of, you can like look across and see like what collection we're working on that really isn't for sale yet. So it's kind of a teaser as to what's coming.
That's a big teaser for comic book lovers. But with that too, what is the big thing? What is the next big thing people should be looking out for?
It's interesting right now that what we're finding from a lot of people who are clearing out storage units or houses is they're talking to their kids or their grandkids and they're saying, what is it you want? And they're getting the answer a lot of times, I don't want any of this. And so that's why a lot of things are coming to the market, because the younger generation really isn't looking for those things. But in any given era, there's this sort of window of nostalgia that rolls along, and it starts to enter in when someone's old enough to have some expendable income and think about things that mattered a lot to them from when they were a kid. And so they've got a fond memory of looking back on things, and so values start to go up because people start reacquiring some of those things that they remember. But then as that window rolls along and it ages, it peaks and then it starts to fall off. And we're finding it, for example, with Western items. 10, 20 years ago, there were certain items that from the Western things, Roy Rogers or Gene Autry, old pieces, and there were some very desirable pieces, and it was a huge market if some of these things popped up. And just in the last decade, we're just watching those prices go down and down and down because the number of people who currently have a fond memory for that stuff from those years, they're clearing their collections out, or they're passing away or whatever. So there's always that back end to that window. So as that window rolls along, that's kind of the trick, is to look forward and say, what's everybody into now that's going to be interesting to them as they start to grow up and as they start to look back. And the other thing is to watch for areas where it's considered maybe a throwaway item. That's the big one, is if everybody keeps it because they think it's going to be worth a lot of money, it almost never is, because then everybody has one. What you're looking for are things that, people don't really consider a collectible or they're not hanging on to. And that's why we were just going through a collection, and there was one of the most expensive items in the collection was an empty box, because nobody kept the boxes for these action figures from the 1960s. The figures themselves are fairly easy to find, but to find the box is a rarity. So the box almost has more desirability than the figure does, because they're so hard to find.
And the box in good condition. That's always key.
and that too. Yeah. And these days, what we're really seeing is kind of an explosion in the interest in old video game cartridges. The video game stuff, Nintendo cartridges, some of those are pretty rare, especially, again, if you have the box and the brochure and all the pieces to it. Some Nintendo cartridges and other gaming systems, they can actually be very valuable. And that's kind of a new discovery. I mean, this is one of those places where years ago, it's like, this is old tech, it's junk, no one cares, throw it out, give it away. And because everybody did that, and really not a lot of people held on to everything, all of a sudden video game cartridges are something that are more desirable now.
See, you're not a good person for me to have a conversation with, because my husband's a collector and a hoarder. And I'm like, get rid of this junk. And he's like, no, you don't understand. It's about the box. It's about this. It's about that. And I'm like, it's taking up space.
Yeah.
And
that's the battle, balancing that. How much space do you want to let get eaten up in order to save everything? So that's the two pieces to it. You don't want to get overrun by it.
Well, it's been great talking to you. Any last minute advice for some of our listeners and viewers that are out there during this time?
It is kind of based on what you just said. I mean, the interesting thing is if you're going through, you're in a situation where you have to sort of assess what's in a storage unit or assess what's in that back room in a house, and It's been piling up for years, and in the back of your head, one of these days I'll get to it. It is kind of important as you're looking at collections of things that you don't get too, you don't lean too hard towards just getting the dumpster and brooming it all out and throwing it away. We've had more than one situation where the person who owned the stuff was saying, I'm just going to throw it all away. And it was on its way to the curb, and someone else involved said, well, hang on, before you do that, let's just have someone look at it. And they give us a call, and we come out, and the next thing you know, they have a check for $5,000 in their hand for something that was on its way to the trash bin.
Wow.
So my biggest advice would be just don't get too dismissive. All it takes is a phone call, snap a few photos, and we can pretty quickly say, yeah, you're safe letting that go, or now there might be some value here, it needs a closer look. So, don't get too dismissive of old piles of stuff.
And where can people find out more about your shop?
We are in the middle of upgrading our website. So the website that you'll go to kind of reflects a little more of like who we were about 10 years ago, as opposed to like what we're mostly doing now. But our website is gobacktothepast.com. And our phone number here is 313-533-3130 is the number for the shop. So if you hit us up on the website or you give us a phone call, and we can very quickly help you navigate and find the best way towards whether you need a Brinks armored truck to collect all the money you're going to get for your stuff, or if you need a dumpster, we can help you figure that out.
That's awesome. Well, it's been such a nice conversation. Thank you for taking time to be with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.